So my resource group will contain the resources that are related to my project. So that is nowhere linked to that another resource group. Okay. సో ఇప్పుడు మీరు సపోజ్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ కృష్ణ ఒక ప్రాజెక్ట్ లో వర్క్ చేస్తున్నాడు, తను ఒక రిసోర్స్ గ్రూప్ క్రియేట్ చేసుకుంటాడు. సో ఆ ప్రాజెక్ట్ లో తనకి కొన్ని సిఎస్వి ఫైల్స్ కావాలి. సో ఆ రిసోర్స్ గ్రూప్ లో ఆ సిఎస్వి ఫైల్స్ యూజ్ చేసుకుంటాడు తను. నేను ఇంకొక రిసోర్స్ గ్రూప్ క్రియేట్ చేసుకొని నాకు కావాల్సిన ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ నేను యాక్సెస్ చేసుకుంటాను. ఓకే, ఒక ఫోల్డర్, జస్ట్ ఇట్స్ లైక్ అ ఫోల్డర్. కృష్ణ విల్ క్రియేట్ వన్ ఫోల్డర్ దట్ హీ విల్ యూజ్. I will create one more folder that I will use. That's all. All these two folders will be present in the main folder. That main folder is called as Azure. That's all. Like it's an example. Like, so Azure is a main folder. Inside that we have multiple folders named as Azure Resource Group. Okay.
Resource group is nothing but to store files, CSV files.
No. It will resource group. It contains resources, not only files. So only files అని కాదు, అందులో వర్చువల్ మెషిన్స్ ఉండొచ్చు, డేటాబేసెస్ ఉండొచ్చు, బ్లాక్ స్టోరేజ్ ఉండొచ్చు, వెబ్ అప్లికేషన్స్ ఉండొచ్చు, ఏదైనా ఉండొచ్చు, ఎనీథింగ్. రిసోర్స్ అంటే ఓన్లీ స్టోరేజ్ కాదు కదా. సో ఇప్పుడు వాట్ ఈస్ క్లౌడ్? క్లౌడ్ అంటే ఏంటి? క్లౌడ్ ఈస్ నాట్ ఓన్లీ స్టోరేజ్. క్లౌడ్ ఆల్సో ప్రొవైడ్స్ resources. It will provide operating systems, it will provide virtual machines, everything, right? So similarly, resource group can contain any type of resources. That can be CSV files, JSON files, it can be SQL databases, it can be virtual machines, it can be web applications, it can be blob storage, anything. Okay? Understood, right? So in the definition itself here we mentioned, right? So Azure resources like virtual machine, storage accounts, web apps, into logical grouping. So ఈ resources ఏదైనా, like any of these resources can be present inside the resource group. So these resources, so a person like a person can add a virtual machine into the resource group, he can delete it. This is called managing the resource group, right? So they will manage these kind of resources. So here if you see, it allows you to manage, deploy, delete these resources as a single unit, simplifying management and prompting consistency. So we can add or so if you add an application into Azure Resource Group, that process is called deployment. So we'll deploy an application into the resource group. It is similar to adding a virtual machine or adding a file into resource group. Okay. So everyone understood, right?
Yes. If I'm not clear.
Okay.
Main theme of resource group I missed.
So Azure Akshay, so resource group అనేది ఏంటి అంటే, రిసోర్స్ గ్రూప్ లో మనము వర్చువల్ మెషిన్స్ స్టోర్ చేసుకోవచ్చు, డేటాబేసెస్ స్టోర్ చేయొచ్చు. సో ఇలా రిసోర్స్ గ్రూప్ అనే ఈ రిసోర్సెస్ అన్ని టుగెదర్ కలిపి ఒక రిసోర్స్ గ్రూప్ లో ఉంటాయి అన్నమాట.
మీన్స్ ఇవన్నీ కంబైన్ చేస్తే దాని రిసోర్స్ గ్రూప్ అంటాం.
అవన్నీ కంబైన్ చేసి ఒక ప్లేస్ లో పెడతాము, ఆ ప్లేస్ ని రిసోర్స్ గ్రూప్ అంటాము.
ఓకే.
సో ఇప్పుడు మీరు లైక్ ఇప్పుడు నేను ఒక అప్లికేషన్స్ ఉంది, ఇప్పుడు ఇక్కడ ఒక సపోజ్ ఇప్పుడు డాక్యుమెంట్స్ ఉంది, నేను ఇక్కడ ఒక ఫోల్డర్ క్రియేట్ చేస్తాను. సపోజ్ దీన్ని అంటే జస్ట్ ఎక్స్ప్లెనేషన్ అజూర్ అని అనుకుందాం. దీంట్లో నేను ఇంకొక ఫోల్డర్ క్రియేట్ చేస్తాను. సో దీన్ని ఒక అజూర్ రిసోర్స్ గ్రూప్ 1 అని పెడతాను. ఓకే. సో అలా ఇంకొక రిసోర్స్ గ్రూప్ ఉంటుంది, దాంట్లో నేను అజూర్ రిసోర్స్ గ్రూప్ 2 అని పెడతాను. అజూర్ రిసోర్స్ గ్రూప్ 2. సో ఇక్కడ 2 రిసోర్స్ గ్రూప్స్ ఉన్నాయి. దీంట్లో నేను ఏంటి, నాకు ఒక సిఎస్వి ఫైల్స్ ఉన్నాయి అనుకుందాము. సపోజ్ ఇప్పుడు పైథాన్. సో ఇప్పుడు ఇక్కడ నాకు ఫైల్స్ ఉంటాయి, సిఎస్వి ఫైల్స్, డేటా. సో ఇప్పుడు ఇలా ఈ మల్టిపుల్ ఫైల్స్ ఉన్నాయి, డాక్యుమెంట్స్ ఈ అజూర్ లో. సో హియర్ all these are considered as resources. Okay. Similarly, we have one more Azure resource group. Here we can have other different resources. So idoka Azure resource group anukondi, idoka Azure resource group anukondi. దీంట్లో కొన్ని రిసోర్సెస్ ఉన్నాయి, ఈ రిసోర్సెస్ దీంట్లో ఉన్నాయి. సేమ్ మనకి Azure resource group 2 లో వేరే రిసోర్సెస్ కూడా ఉంటాయి, దానికి దీనికి ఏం ఇంటర్లింక్ లేదు. సో ఇప్పుడు ఇక్కడ మీరు అన్నారు కదా, ఇవన్నిటిని కలిపి రిసోర్స్ గ్రూప్ అని అంటామా? కాదు, ఇవన్నీ ఒక రిసోర్స్ గ్రూప్ లో ఉన్నాయని అంటాం అంతే. అక్షయ్ ఓకేనా, ఇప్పుడు అర్థమైంది మీకు?
Yes, please.
యా ఓకే. So that is Azure Resource Group. So next topic is like Azure.
Actually, చిన్న డిస్టర్బెన్స్ ఉంది వాళ్ళ, అందుకోసమే చూద్దాం.
Okay.
ఏంటంటే మొహరం అవుతుంది, ఫస్ట్ సౌండ్ వస్తున్నది.
అదే ఓకే పర్లేదు. సో నెక్స్ట్ Azure Databricks. So Databricks this is like a platform. So this platform will provide different kind of resources for us. So that resources we can use for our data engineering purposes. Okay. So Azure Databricks, like it is a Apache Spark based platform. So what is the purpose of Apache Spark based platform here? So this Apache Spark based platform will provide us big data analytics. We can perform big data analytics, we can perform data engineering, we can use it for machine learning, we can use it for business intelligence. So we can use Power BI, those kind of resources also. All these are integrated inside this Azure Databricks. Okay. So మనకి డేటా ఇంజనీరింగ్ కి కావాల్సిన టూల్స్ అన్ని, బిగ్ డేటాకి కావాల్సిన టూల్స్, all these tools that required for performing this will be integrated inside this Azure Databricks. Okay. So Azure Databricks is a Apache Spark based platform. So it is used for big data analytics, data engineering, machine learning, business intelligence. So whatever tools required for these concepts will be are already integrated inside the Apache Spark, Azure Databricks, we can say. Okay, understood, right? So nothing like it's like a so Databricks, it's like a platform where we can perform any of these functionalities or any of these operations required for these concepts.
Okay.
So this is a basic diagram. Like so here, like who uses Azure Databricks? So like data science people, data engineering, line of business. So many, all like almost like all of these people will use Azure Databricks. Okay.
Means this Azure Databricks also part of web page only, right, in Azure?
Yes, correct. So we'll see that later, like after completing theory I will show you. So it is like a web page, like similar to resource group and other pages. It is also a page inside the Azure portal. Okay. So this Azure Databricks, so these people use Azure Databricks. So this from where do we get data for the Azure Databricks? Suppose I want to perform data engineering inside the Azure Databricks. Okay. So I need the data, right? So that data we get from any of these resources. I can get that data from Azure Blob Storage, Data Lake Storage, SQL Data Warehouse, Apache Kafka, Hadoop Storage. From any of these stores we can get the data for Azure Databricks. Suppose I want to perform data cleaning for a consider we have a student's data. So I want to perform data cleaning for the student data. So where do we having that student data? It will be in the databases, right? Any of these databases. So we have to read the data from these databases in the Azure Databricks. Okay. All this will be integrated with Azure Databricks, everything. So we can access all this from the Databricks. So I'll read the data from these storages and I'll perform the data cleaning operation inside the Databricks, and I'll provide the data for the applications. Whatever applications we need, I'll provide the data for those applications. It can be deep learning applications, machine learning, for online streaming, for data warehouses, for visualization like Power BI tools, any other kind of operations. So we'll just read the data from the storage devices, storages. We'll clean the data inside the Azure Databricks. We'll provide the data to the applications.
Cleaning in the sense deleting unwanted data. That only, right?
No. Unwanted data cleaning, removing null values. replacing
Okay.
null values with averages, those kind of cleaning. Like removing redundant data, duplicate data,
Means
all the things.
using SQL or using Spark.
Yeah, it can be anything. Like it can be using S. So here below, if you see, these are the languages supported in the Databricks. So you can perform that data pre-processing or data cleaning using any of these languages. It supports all these languages: Scalar, Java, Python, SQL. So we prefer Python now. Okay. So it supports all these languages. You can perform that data
Okay.
pre-processing using these languages. It's our choice to select this. So generally, Python is the most used languages in Databricks. Like most is heavily used. All other are like like very less used. Okay. So individually we'll discuss about data works, like whatever the terms we needed, I will discuss in the next pages. So this workspace, everything we'll discuss below. So just overview you understood, right? So what is Databricks? Like where do we get the data from for Databricks for cleaning the data? What languages it supports? Okay. Okay, we'll move on to the next. Now, so what is the jobs? What are jobs? So like what is like why we got this term? We'll get like in the next concepts we'll get that term. But first we need to understand what is a job here. So in Azure Databricks, like we'll be having tasks. So I want to create a notebook. I want to run a Python code. I want to run a SQL query. So if you want to automate this, any of these concepts, so I want to execute a Python query, but I don't want to run it manually at particular point of time. So tomorrow at 10 a.m. I want to execute a Python query which I have written today. I have written a Python code. I want to get that executed automatically tomorrow in the 10 a.m. morning 10 a.m. Okay, so tomorrow I will not log into Azure portal and I won't run it manually. It should be executed automatically without my manual intermission. Okay, so without manual intervention. So I will not log into Azure portal tomorrow morning 10 a.m. It should be executed automatically. So if it executes automatically at tomorrow 10 a.m., that process is known as job. Okay. So a job in Azure Databricks is a way to automate the execution of tasks. So what is a task? So running a notebook is a task. Running a Python code is a task. Running a SQL query is a task. Any of this is a task. So if you want any of these tasks to execute automatically without your intervention, that process is known as job. సో మీరు ఒక పైథాన్ కోడ్ రాశారు, ఆ పైథాన్ కోడ్ మీరు ఇప్పుడు ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ చేశారు, వర్క్ అవుతుంది. కాకపోతే ఏంటంటే మీకు అది ఒక 1 వీక్ తర్వాత అది ఆటోమేటిక్గా రన్ అవ్వాలని అనుకుంటున్నారు. ఓకే, అది ఆటోమేటిక్గా 1 వీక్ తర్వాత రన్ అవ్వడానికి మనం చేసే ప్రాసెస్ ఉంటుంది కదా, దాన్ని జాబ్ అంటారు. ఓకే, ఈ పైథాన్ కోడ్ ఒక 1 వీక్ తర్వాత ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అవ్వాలి, దాన్నే జాబ్ అని అంటాం. ఓకే,
particular time frame also, like we can choose any time.
Yes, we can choose any time, day, date.
Okay, means intervals also, every week, every week Monday.
Yes, that is also, yeah. Like every Monday it should execute. Like, so if you remember, like we'll get emails, right? Like that is also a job. So
means using subject which includes.
Yes, everything.
Schedule triggering, sir.
Yeah, ఆ షెడ్యూల్ ట్రిగ్గర్ అవుతుంది కదా, అక్కడ ఆ ప్రాసెస్ నే జాబ్ అని అంటాం మనం.
Schedule triggering runs the pipeline on a specific time.
అర్థం అవ్వలేదు కృష్ణ ఏమంటున్నారు.
అదే సార్, రన్స్ ద పైప్లైన్, డేటా పైప్లైన్ స్పెసిఫిక్ టైం అంటే మనం సెట్ చేసిన టైంలో రన్ అవుతుంది. సో ఇక్కడ జాబ్ అంటే ఒక థియరీ, లైక్ ఇట్స్ నాట్ లైక్ ఆ ప్రాసెస్ అవుతుంది కదా, దాన్నే జాబ్ అంటాం. అది ఆటోమేటిక్ గా అయ్యేలాగా చేస్తున్నాం కదా, దాన్ని ఒక జాబ్ అని అంటాం మనం. ఓకే, ద హోల్ ప్రాసెస్ ఇస్ కాల్డ్ జాబ్.
యా, సో జాబ్స్ ఆర్ యూజ్డ్ ఫర్ ఆటోమేషన్. ఇప్పుడు అది ఆటోమేటిక్ గా మనం ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ అయ్యేలాగా చేస్తున్నాం కదా. ఓకే, టు రన్ టాస్క్స్ ఆన్ షెడ్యూల్ ఆర్ బేస్డ్ ఆన్ ట్రిగర్స్ వితౌట్ manual
Manual
intervention.
intervention.
That's all. So job are used for automation, like a way of automating the. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So cluster next. So in Databricks, we will be having cluster. So what is a cluster? So as we discussed, we will be having virtual machines, right? So we have Spark jobs. So I have written a PySpark code, and like I want to automate that. So where that should be run, like, so now in my local, I will open Jupyter notebook and I'll execute one PySpark code. Like where it is running, where does that PySpark code is running? In my local machine, right? So it is my local machine. But inside the Databricks, we will be having virtual machines. So in these virtual machines, that code will be executed. Okay. The set of virtual machines to execute these Spark jobs is called a cluster. Okay. So cluster is, we can say cluster as a processor also. So it will contain multiple processors. So these processors will execute our PySpark code. సో క్లస్టర్ అంటే ఏంటి అంటే మనకి ఇప్పుడు నేను నా లోకల్లో జూపిటర్ నోట్బుక్, ఓకే నా వింటున్నారు అందరూ, అర్థమవుతుంది కదా క్లస్టర్ అంటే ఏంటి. సో మనకి మల్టిపుల్, ఇప్పుడు నేను నా లోకల్లో జూపిటర్ నోట్బుక్ ఓపెన్ చేసి ఒక కోడ్ రాశాను. ఆ కోడ్ ఎక్కడ రన్ అవుతుంది? ఇప్పుడు నా సిస్టమ్ లో రన్ అవుతుంది. నా లోకల్ మెషిన్ లో ఒక ప్రాసెసర్ ఉంది కదా, ఆ ప్రాసెసర్ అనేది ఈ కోడ్ ని రన్ చేస్తుంది. మరి అజూర్ లో కూడా మనకి ప్రాసెసర్ కావాలి కదా కోడ్ రన్ చేయాలంటే. మనకి మల్టిపుల్ వర్చువల్ మెషిన్స్ ఉంటాయి. వర్చువల్ మెషిన్స్ ఈజ్ నథింగ్ బట్ వర్చువల్ ప్రాసెసర్స్. Every machine will have one processor, right? Like that, we'll be having set of virtual machines in Azure portal, like Azure website. So that set of virtual machines, these machines will execute our Spark jobs. Spark jobs mean nothing but our Python code. So this set of virtual machines will execute our Spark jobs. This together is known as cluster. Okay, this set of virtual machines together is known as a cluster. Okay. So key points for this cluster. So it consists of a driver and worker nodes. So here worker node, like driver and worker nodes means, again these are also known as processors. So if you have one main processor and sub processors again, okay, so those kind of driver and worker nodes will be there. And it like so we can execute manual Python code, and we can also make that automated jobs. We discussed, right? So we can create jobs in cluster, or we can manually execute our Python code also using cluster. So a cluster is a processor, like virtual set of virtual machines. Again in cluster we have two types of clusters. Interactive cluster. Interactive cluster means I will open one notebook in the cluster, like in the Databricks, and I'll write my code, I'll execute that using cluster. So it is known as interactive cluster. Job cluster means we'll automate the code, like it will execute at specific time whatever we required. Okay, two types of clusters, interactive cluster and job cluster. So here these are the cluster types. Okay, so cluster is a set of virtual machines. Please, like if you are unable to get anything, ask me. These are interview questions. So what are jobs in Azure Databricks? What is a cluster? What are the types of clusters? So two types of clusters, interactive cluster and job cluster. Interactive cluster means we'll use it for development and running the notebooks in the clusters. Job cluster means, so these are the temporary clusters that will these are used for creating the jobs or scheduling the jobs. Jobs means, what are jobs? Just now we discussed, right? They are the way of automation of any task. The task can be running a notebook, running a Python, running a SQL query. Okay, these are the cluster and its types. Okay, and so what are the concepts in cluster? So actually, what is the purpose of cluster? So to process the data, to run notebook, to execute jobs, and machine learning workloads. So all these are, this is the purpose. So cluster can be used for running our notebooks, to process the data, to execute jobs. So here, actually, in our local machine, who does all these operations? Our processor, right? Processor is responsible for, if you are running a SQL query, so processor is only the main concept behind that SQL query. Anything, whatever you perform in your system, that will be executed by processor only. So similar to that, cluster is also a processor, set of processors. So cluster is responsible for running notebook, executing jobs, processing any data. So it is responsible for all these kind of operations. And how it works? So we have Spark, right? So this Spark distributes tasks across the nodes in the cluster. Nodes means again virtual machines. So here we discuss, right? Cluster means it will have multiple nodes. Node means again it is a virtual machine. Node 1, node 2, node 3. So it will be have multiple nodes. What is a node? Node is a processor or virtual machine. Node is a virtual machine or processor. Okay, understood, right? సో క్లస్టర్లో మనకి డిఫరెంట్ వర్చువల్ మెషిన్స్ ఉంటాయి. ఆ వర్చువల్ మెషిన్స్ని మనం నోడ్ అని కూడా అంటాము. నోడ్ ఈజ్ ఆల్సో నోన్ యాజ్ వర్చువల్ మెషిన్. సో హియర్ like I have Python file and I have selected a cluster. This cluster, suppose you consider that cluster has 3 nodes. I have one Python file. So who decides whether this Python file should run in node 1, node 2 or node 3? Spark decides the node. So Spark distributes our task across the nodes in the cluster. So Spark will decide which node should run my Python file. Okay, inside the cluster. Auto scaling. So cluster can automatically add or remove nodes based on the workload. Suppose I have 10 terabytes of data. So cluster will make, like, suppose this 10 terabytes of data cannot be handled by 3 nodes. Okay, so if this data cannot be handled by 3 nodes, cluster will automatically add one more node. How many nodes? It can add one more node, it can add 2 more nodes. So end of the day, the processing of this data should be fast. So for that purpose, cluster can add different types of nodes, or it can remove the nodes also. Okay, that is called as auto scaling. So this is also interview question. What is auto scaling in cluster? So cluster can automatically add or remove nodes based on the workload to optimize the cost and performance. So here, if suppose I have one Python file, so one node is enough for executing that Python file. So if I use 3 nodes, then unnecessary we need to pay more, right, for 3 nodes. So everything in Azure needs cost. We need to pay, right? We need to pay for everything inside the Azure. So yes, if I have less data, I can use only one node. I don't want to use multiple nodes. So if I am using 3 nodes for small data, cluster will automatically remove the 2 nodes so that it will reduce my cost, right? So this is called as auto scaling in cluster. Okay, and types of cluster we already seen: interactive cluster and job cluster. And auto
nodes here means adding one more virtual machine only, right?
Yes,
node
correct.
means,
yeah, node means one more virtual machine, right? Correct.
Okay.
Node is nothing but virtual machine or processor.
Means if we run any heavy jobs, it will automatically scale. It will add one more node like that, right?
Yes. So that will improve the performance, right?
Okay.
So
parallelly it will do.
Yes. Okay. So it will add, that is improves the performance. Suppose if I have Python file that can be executed only on one node, it will remove these nodes. So that will optimize the cost. So this first
automatically it will.
Yes,
it will do, right?
Remove the nodes.
Okay.
So removing the nodes can help us to optimize the cost, Adding the nodes help us to improve the performance.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is the story behind auto scaling and auto termination. Auto termination is, so when we are not using any cluster, it will automatically terminate the cluster. Like it will automatically stop the virtual machines. Okay. Suppose if I'm not running any of the tasks, so no need of running the virtual machine, right? It can be turned off. So it will terminate automatically. This also saves the cost.
Means all these things will be in Databricks programmatical way, or like Azure, like clicking buttons and all.
You can see buttons, like you can see cluster. You can create the cluster. I'll show it. Like so first we need to understand theory, right? That is the purpose. It is not a programming. Only in the notebook we'll write the code. Everything is a UI based elements. Cluster is a UI based element. So job is a concept, right? Cluster is a UI based element. Even you can select the virtual machines. I'll show you that also. This is a UI based, nothing, no code required here till now. So here we have example. Suppose you want to run data transformation of 1 TB of data. So you can create cluster with 4 worker nodes, means 4 nodes or 4 virtual machines. So this task is automatically split into smaller jobs and executed in parallel by Spark across these nodes. So data transformation of 1 GB of data will be split into multiple jobs. So these jobs will be executed across these 4 nodes. Okay.
Okay.
This is just a high level flow. Next we have Databricks workspace. Okay. So Databricks workspace, this is also UI based component only. So inside this data, so we discussed cluster, right? So cluster is present inside the Databricks workspace. Notebook is present inside the Databricks workspace. Jobs are present inside the Databricks workspace. Data is also present inside the workspace. Everything, all these 4 will be present inside the workspace. You can just for similar view, if you can say this as a project folder. Okay, it's a main folder. It's almost similar to a main folder. This will contain clusters. So clusters are responsible for executing of our tasks or jobs, right? So all these concepts are under the Databricks workspace. So here if you see, Databricks workspace is a collaborative environment where you organize your notebooks, libraries, clusters and jobs. So here in this example, if you see, you want to run a data transformation of 1 TB of data. So where is our data? So you want to run data transformation, but where is our data present? Inside this, right? So you create a cluster with 4 worker nodes. So this is a cluster. Okay, we'll create 4 worker nodes here. So like the task is automatically split into smaller jobs. Okay. So here, these are the jobs now. So to perform the data transformation, where you will write the code? In the notebook. So you will write the code in the notebook, but to execute that notebook, we need a virtual machine. So we'll take the help of the cluster. So if I want to read a data for that notebook, I will read it from
notebook
the data.
Means here the Jupyter notebook or again separate Databricks something?
It is almost similar to Jupyter notebook only. That Jupyter notebook is integrated inside the Databricks, Azure Databricks.
Okay.
That Jupyter
Okay.
notebook.
Okay.
But we will not say that is Jupyter because it's inside the Databricks, right? We will say just notebook.
Okay.
We can inside this notebook we can execute SQL queries, Python code, Scala, R, whatever we have seen above. Those kind of things can be executed inside the notebooks. Understood, right?
Yes.
So yesterday we have seen like one task. So I'll read the student data. I want to perform some aggregations and I want to clean some null values and I want to save it back in the CSV file, consider it. So then I'll write my code. I will read the data from the database. Okay, I'll read it. Then I will perform some aggregations here. Okay, I'm writing the code. I still did not execute it. I'm writing the code to read data from the database. I'll perform some aggregations and I'll save it back to the database. Okay, I have written the code now. I want to execute this code inside the notebook. How to execute? So I will take the help of the cluster. So cluster will execute this notebook and save back the data to the database. It can be any database. It can be data lake, it can be SQL, it can be blob storage, anything. So the entire process is there, right? If this is automated, that is known as job. అర్థమైందా అందరికి? లైక్ సో ఎవరీవన్ అండర్స్టూడ్, రైట్?
Yes, sir.
So here purpose. So Databricks purpose. So here if you see, it is an organized way. We can see everything in organized way. We'll be having notebooks, jobs, libraries, clusters. Everything will be in organized way. Databricks లోనే మనకి కాన్సెప్ట్స్ అన్ని ఈ UI మొత్తం Databricks లోనే ఉంటుంది, Databricks workspace లోనే. So purpose is to organize all this in a single UI. And users who will use this Databricks workspace: data scientists, data engineers, analysts. So all these people use this Databricks workspace. Okay. Structure. So it is similar to a file system. So Databricks workspace contains, like we can consider Databricks workspace also folder. So this Databricks workspace is a folder. It contains notebooks, clusters, scripts or libraries, everything like jobs, data, everything. Okay, that is a structure. And permissions. So here I told you, right, this is a database. Like consider this as a some table. Like inside we have one table. Okay, I'm writing that table has some sensitive information like credentials, username and password I have. So here a person from data engineer, he came and he have written a code. So he is trying to read data from this table. That table has username and passwords, right? But I don't want him to read this data. So I want this data to be secure. Okay, I want him to block from this table. So those kind of permissions. So access control to define who can view, edit or run resources inside the workspace. So I can make a person so that he cannot take the help of a cluster. He cannot read some data inside this database. So he cannot perform some operations. We can restrict the developer. We can restrict a data scientist, engineer, analyst, anyone. Okay, that kind of restrictions, that kind of permission will be handled inside the workspace. Okay, everyone cannot be having the access, right? So like suppose if a person is a team lead, he should be having some access levels. He can see like his team performance. Suppose a person consider like a person is a team lead, he has 3 teammates, so he can see all the 3 teammates performance. But a teammate cannot see his colleague performance, right? He doesn't have rights to see his colleague performance. Okay, but a team lead has the rights. Okay, that kind of access levels will be handled inside the Databricks workspace. Okay, that is called as permissions. So that kind of access will be handled. Okay, understood, right? If you want to take a pic, take this. This is a high level of Databricks workspace. So like please do remember, all these are interview questions. Like they will ask, what is a Databricks workspace? What is a cluster? Okay, what are jobs? Okay, so our next concept is notebook. So till now we are seeing that notebook every time we are saying. So this notebook can be like we can refer that as a document, interactive document. So inside that notebook we can write the code, we can run the code, we can see the output, we can document our analysis also. All these things can be done inside the notebook. Okay, all these things we will write in Jupyter Notebook also, right? So this is a document, that's all. Inside the Databricks we have this document. Okay, it is also UI component. So if you open Databricks workspace, you can see a notebook option. So here if you see, I have a file option, I have edit option. Similar to that, we'll have one more option called notebook option inside the Databricks workspace. We can click on that notebook option, we can create a file, we can run this, we can write some code, we can execute that, we can see the outputs. Those kind of things can be performed using the notebook. Okay, concepts. So as I said, we can write the code. What are the languages supported for this notebook? So Python, SQL, Scala or everything can be executed in this notebook. So for that, like if I am writing a Python code, you have to mention percentile Python. If you mention this, so that notebook will understand that, okay, this person is writing Python code. So if you mention %SQL, so it will understand, okay, this person is writing SQL query. So based on that, if you mention this percentile and that specific language name, it will understand that we are writing that processor, because Python will be executed by some processor, like SQL will be executed by a different processor, right? That
Means
for that purpose you have to mention it.
means in one file also we can write multiple languages. Like you can, here it is there, you can mix languages using.
Yes, yeah, that's all. Like in one file you can write multiple code. So in a single file I can write Python code and SQL code also. But we just need to mention this percentage
while starting.
Because, yes, yeah, before. Suppose if my first 5 lines are Python. So I'll mention %Python and I'll write 5 lines of Python code. And in the next 5 lines are SQL. So that I'll mention this %SQL in the next line. After that I'll write SQL queries in 5 lines.
Okay.
So this way, okay, that so notebook is such that much powerful, right? It will understand any of this language.
I have one more question. Like, it is our choice, right? We can do this Python, Scala, and R. Like these three programming, it's our choice.
Yes, it is our choice.
Means, or else company will say that you have to use this.
Okay, if you join an organization, company will say that, but if wherever you go, everyone will use Python.
Okay.
Most probably everyone will use Python and SQL. Very rarely Scala and R will be used. Actually, R will be used for